Sir Elton John and Bad Side of the Moon on your Muskoka Morning the Bay, 88.7. Grant here with you in the heart of Huntsville. Once again, welcoming everyone from the Almagwin Highlands right through to Gravenhurst and all those beautiful bits that are in between. 9:31 in the a.m., sitting at -4 outside the studio. Still a bit of a mix of sun and cloud, but I'd say, unfortunately, the clouds seem to be winning, but that's okay because we are going to brighten things up for you this morning. Joining me on the line, I'm very excited to be chatting with Elton Rohn, that's right, and they are coming to the Gravenhurst Opera House on March the 11th. The show kicks off at 7:30, a presentation of Peter's Players. You can get your tickets at petersplayers.com. Now, Elton Rohn is a tremendous band with a great following. They've played some incredible venues. They've headlined over 300 theaters and festival shows throughout Canada and the U.S. and beyond as well. So I'm just checking that out on the website. And they have been called one of the top, if not the top, tribute band in North America, which is an incredible thing. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Elton Rohn to your Muskoka Morning. Good morning, good sir.
Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us this morning. I know you're busy, but this is exciting. You know, I always enjoy when I get to find out a little bit more about a musician. And I'm going to ask you right out of the gate, if you don't mind, when did your love begin for Elton John's music?
Okay, so here's how it started. I grew up in the music industry. My father worked for CBS Records, and even before it was CBS, it was Columbia. And his favorite band was Chicago, which was a horn band.
Right.
And he used to bring home all the albums of all of the artists on the radio that I would listen to when I was like 8 and 10 years old. And he brought me home the Honky Chateau record by Elton John because he loved the song Honky Cat.
Okay.
The horns reminded him of Chicago. And Chicago were his favorite band, and he was friends with the band, so he was all about the horns. And when he brought the album home, I just fell in love with it, and I became a big Elton John fan. And then my dad took me to the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and I was absolutely hooked. So all my life, I had no idea I was going to be an Elton John performer, but all my life I listened to his records, and as a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, I'd listen to the songs and I'd pretend I was in the band. I was a guitarist growing up, so I pretended I was playing guitar with Elton John down in my basement for hours upon hours.
I love it. I love it.
And I listened to the songs and I sang along with Elton, and that's how I got his mannerisms in the voice. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I bought myself a piano and I taught myself to play by listening to Elton John music.
That is amazing.
So it's just all come together, and now all these years later, I get to go out and do everything that I dreamt of as a kid.
Well, they're big shoes to fill, my friend, but you fill them in a fine fashion. I will say that. Watching some, I have not had the opportunity to see you perform live, but I've seen a lot of video footage, and holy smokes, man, you guys are like, first of all, the band is incredible. You guys are extremely tight. Your vocal work is absolutely incredible. Not to mention, the mannerisms. It really. How do I say this? It really feels like you're at an Elton John show. I mean, the energy.
That's what happens at all our shows. Everybody comes up to me afterwards and said, "Oh my God, I thought I was at an Elton show." The first thing I did, I'm not like a lot of these tribute performers that play in like 4 tributes and go and one day they're singing one band, the next day they're singing something else. I do just the one show. It's one of those things. I look like him, I sound like him, I play the piano like him, and I have all of his mannerisms, which is important. But I also said, if I'm going to do this, we're going to do it right. And I got myself just a great band. We have probably the top musicians, as good as any band. We play a lot of the stages that, like the night before us, I remember we played in Del Lago. It was America the night before us, and I think it was Styx or REO Speedwagon coming in after us. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure we're on that level when we play, because that's our audience in a lot of these, especially down in the United States.
Right.
In Canada, we'll go across the country, and I'm seeing Gowan and Honeymoon Suite and all these bands that Tom Cochrane, they're all on the same theater stages as what we're playing. So you've got to bring it. You've got to be really good at it, and we work really hard, and we're to the point now where we know we're really competent at it, and we can just have fun.
It's absolutely.
I never get nervous because we know we can do it.
Here's the thing I find very interesting too, and I mean no disrespect to Sir Elton John in any level, but great performer, great career, still having a great career, but he's up there in age a little bit. So how do I say this respectfully? One thing I like about what you guys are doing, I mean, if people are true Elton John fans, right, and they've never had a chance to go and see you, here's the thing: is that you can hit those notes that Elton can't just hit anymore. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way towards him.
I know what you're saying.
It's a fact.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I'm 73, I probably won't be able to hit them either. But we're able to bring the show to remind people of Elton in his prime.
Absolutely.
70s.
Absolutely.
When I met we played Vegas and we did the Elton convention. I met the band, and Davy Johnson said just that. He said, "You guys remind us of us the way we used to be."
Wow.
And it's so much fun. He watches our videos, and he paid us like huge compliments about how good we were at it. And it's one of those things that when I'm not able to do it anymore, I don't think I'll want to be the Elton of today. I enjoy doing the 70s Elton as much as I can because that's when I was in love with his albums. I still think he's fantastic today, and he puts on a hell of a show. It's just different, and I would say it's the same for any band. That's once they've been out for 60 years.
Yeah.
They're going to change. They're going to sound different. The Rolling Stones don't sound today anywhere close to what they sounded like in the 70s.
Exactly.
Still fun to see. Elton's fun to see.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that in a disrespectful way towards him.
Of course.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And I encourage the listeners to check out eltonron.com as well. You can see some video footage. You can learn more about the band. You can see their upcoming shows as well. And here's something interesting. I'm sure maybe you've heard this before. And again, it's there's incredible testimonials on your website from people that were absolutely blown away. Well, here's a little scenario I'm going to take you through, if that's all right. A friend of the family was a gentleman. He goes, I'm not an Elton John fan. He was dragged out to one of your shows by his wife, okay? He didn't want to go because he wasn't a fan of Elton John's music. He went to see Elton Rohn, your band, perform, and he actually said, you know what? I'm an Elton John fan now. That's pretty amazing, in my humble opinion.
A lot. I mean, it's really funny because what happens at most of our shows, the ladies are easy to win over. They come, they are there to have a good time. It's the guys that you have to win over, and it usually takes about 2 songs.
Right.
And then they come up to me at the end of the show and they said, I came because my wife dragged me out, and I really thought this was going to suck, but you guys are great.
I love it.
I'll come back to see you again. I get that all the time.
I love it. I do encourage people to make sure you get your tickets before it sells out. Elton Rohn performing at the Gravenhurst Opera House March 11th. It kicks off at 7:30. Tickets are available at petersplayers.com. And now I want to ask you, if you don't mind, anyone who's never had the opportunity to see Elton Rohn perform and your band perform, what do you hope they're going to take away from the evening?
Well, what we try to do, I want to make sure, like, when people think of a tribute band, it can go one of 2 ways. And especially with Elton John, there's a lot of guys out there that kind of do the Elton of today, and it's a little bit campy, and they wear the big feather boas, they prance around the stage, and sometimes they run out into the audience and sit on people's laps. That's not what you get with us. What you get with us is a real, authentic-sounding Elton John show. We try to recreate the sound from the 70s, and we do it in such a way that people are always telling me, when I close my eyes, it just reminded me of being at the Elton show back in 1978, and I said that's what we want to do.
Well,
so if people really enjoy Elton's old albums, that's what we're going to bring to you at Gravenhurst. We do it like we've done it 350 times now, I think, or something, and every show is the same. People say, "Wow, you took me back to when I was just young and listening to Elton John." That's our goal. I mean, I can come out and I could do Elton John today if I wanted to, but I enjoy doing the 70s version so much better. For me, it's just that's my comfort zone. That's what I like to do, and everybody seems to really enjoy it. I'll let all the other tribute bands, do Elton of today. Mm-hmm. We're really focused on the 70s, and we'll still do some songs from the 80s and beyond. But for the most part, we take you back to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
And you guys are busy, man. You're back to the States after the show in Gravenhurst. You're off to Barbados, and then back to the States again after that. So you're definitely on a nice tour, and you guys are keeping yourself very, very active, which is a great thing. Because I've heard nothing but incredible things about the show. So I will remind the listeners once again, you'll have the chance to see Elton Rohn.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The thing is, at this point now in our career, we don't really have to go looking for shows. People are coming after us. So
absolutely.
We're going to Seattle for the first time. after Gravenhurst, and then we get to go. Yeah, we're playing Barbados. We have a beautiful 1,000 venue capacity.
Nice
place that we're playing down there. We're going to get a few days off for the band, and then we're playing all across the United States. And I think we're doing 10 states this year and 4 provinces in Canada. I think we're going. I just called the other day. We're putting together another BC trip. We're going to be going to Saskatchewan, Alberta.
Nice.
So it's just fun. We get everywhere we go. We have so much fun doing this, and the people are so responsive. I get to finally understand what it was like for Elton to go out on a stage. If I go out in front of 15,000 people, I get a little bit of that feeling of what it must have been like to be Elton.
Right.
You know? And that, to me, it just is so much fun. And it shows on stage. We smile as much as the audience does all show. We're having just as much fun as they are.
Hey, and it's an expression that is used far too much, but you guys literally do leave it on the stage. So hats off to you for that.
Thanks. Well, it's the only way to play. I mean,
Indeed.
If you don't give it all. And here's the other thing, there's a lot of bands out there that are playing the tracks and kind of doing all this thing. We're playing 100% live, and it's because we're musicians, so you might as well go out there and give it your all and see how good you can be every night. I would never want to play a show to tracks, ever, because I need to test myself as a musician. I'd rather go out there and see a band make mistakes than be perfect every night because you're listening to things on tape. So we play everything live, and it really shows. We have guys that can solo anytime I ask them to solo. It's just a spectacular musical evening.
I thank you so much for your time this morning. I will remind the listeners once again, March 11th, the Gravenhurst Opera House. Elton Rohn taking the stage at 7:30 p.m. Tickets available at petersplayers.com. And I thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks a lot for having me, and hi to all to the listeners. We can't wait to be. The Opera House is such a fantastic venue. It's going to be such an intimate show. Can't wait.
Here's Elton John with Crocodile Rock on your Muskoka Morning the Bay.